grading rebuilds, I thought this would be a good idea for this episode because there's quite a couple teams that are rebuilding, but I don't think all teams that are rebuilding are doing it properly. Next team up, the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, this shit is a fat F.
Yeah, I think for right now, I'm going to give them a D for the sole fact that
you're a Jalen Green guy.
No, I think they have great young talent.
Okay,
they do. Şengün is
it's
great.
There. That's the thing.
KPJ has been awesome defensively this year, and offensively, you know what he brings. Jalen Green, offensively, over the last month, I think he's averaging 24 points per game.
Can I ask you a question then?
Go ahead. I know what you're gonna ask.
No. I'm not gonna nitpick anything from the past. I'm curious about this current conversation. D, even though you like their young players, I feel like that would be a reason to maybe even give them a little bit higher grade, honestly. Can you stop it? I only say that because Kevin Porter Jr., I am a fan of his game for sure. Jalen Green, we understand that his talent offensively is there, and he has a very high ceiling when it comes to scoring the basketball. Alperen Şengün, he's already shown a lot in a short amount of time. And, of course, the only one who really I'm iffy on is Jabari Smith. He's struggled this year, shooting under 40% from the field. He really hasn't been all too great. He also is shooting the three-point ball way too much for my liking as well. I think it's at like 5 attempts. I think he's shooting 32%. I mean, for his size, that's not bad, but still, I don't love that, especially for the fact that his efficiency as a whole is not that good. I want to see him be more dominant down low. But if you like the young players, why the D then is what I'm curious about.
They get the D. Because because the only thing that's holding this back from being an F is their young talent. The only reason they're not an F is because they have a lot of talent that, if it's in the right coach and situation, can be really good. They don't have a coach. They don't have a culture, and the higher-ups want to lose purposefully. Mm-hmm. And we saw that in the John Wall interview and how he kind of exposed that.
No doubt.
And for me, it's more than just the guys I named. Kenyon Martin Jr. has been really good.
He has.
When he starts, I think he's averaging 16 to 18 points per game, and he's somebody who has to get better as a shooter, but as a defender, he's very versatile. He can guard multiple positions. Jabari Smith, his efficiency isn't great, and I want him to shoot threes because I know he can make that shot.
Fair.
And that's the player he was coming out of college. He was a stretch big. Mm-hmm. Defensively, he's been fantastic for the Rockets this year. He's been really good. I think he needs to be more aggressive in rebounding and boxing out. But Jabari Smith, his efficiency's just been hurting him. But he's had a really good year, I would say, despite that. He's doing all the other things that show positive sign of a player that is going to be good.
Where you're coming from.
So for me, they have a lot of great young talent. Like I'm saying, like 5 to 7 young rotational players that can really play. Mm-hmm. They can really play. They just need those veterans. And Eric Gordon, he even mentioned that he's seen no improvement. I think part of that is Steven Silas. Part of that is the higher-ups. But Alperen Şengün, since dating back to last year, has been quite easily from the eye test their best playmaker and facilitator, especially when they run the offense through him in these dribble handoff actions. And that's when Jalen Green's at his best. So for me, it took way too long to finally give Şengün the keys to this offense.
Yep.
And that's why you've seen his assist numbers skyrocket from 2 to now 5, 6, 7. He had a triple-double recently, the youngest center to ever have it.
He killed the Lakers the other night.
So Şengün has been like that, and because it's taken a while to get to that point, I kind of blame Silas for that.
I don't disagree all too much. The only thing when I think about it, when I think of a rebuild, is the first thing you need to have in place is the players. And it seems as if they have a solid foundation right now. So for that, I'm going to give them a C. And I believe in this foundation. I believe that you can definitely get these players and develop them to a point where this team can be competitive. You're not competitive right now. You're one of the worst teams in the league. You're going to put yourself into a position where you could potentially have the number 1 overall pick and draft Victor to the squad, or have a Scoot Henderson come to the squad. So with that alone, you're getting, regardless of how you want to shake it, a great prospect. Either you're getting one of the greatest prospects to ever play the game, or you're going to get a very firm, established prospect in Scoot Henderson. I just feel like if you have the players, you can definitely have the other pieces fall into place, like a great head coach that could just come in and really develop these guys. So for that, I give them a C.
It's tough because if they do fall into a Victor or Scoot, we look at it way differently. I think when you look at a team like Jazz or OKC who has the talent already, and you could kind of feel the culture being built already,
fair.
And then you can compare it to the Rockets, who they have some of the talent for sure, but they don't have a guy like SGA, for example. And it's not like SGA is, someone that's just going to be in every draft or in free agency or trade that you could even get, like even someone like Laurie, who is obviously great. SGA is just kind of a one-of-one player, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm just comparing it to him. But yeah, I mean, this Rockets team, I don't know if this John Wall interview is just skewing me right now, but it just the lack of leadership. I mean, it's not just that they don't have vets. Like, out of everyone who's getting significant minutes, like, Gordon's the only player over like 24. Like, we're not even talking about like a year 5, 6 guy. We're talking about guys who are years 1, 2, 3 in the league. And I understand playing your young guys. We're going to talk about some other teams who aren't playing their young guys who probably should be a little bit later. But right now, this Rockets team has the talent, but the culture and the head coach too as well. Like, Steven Silas doesn't feel like he's the long-term option for this team. That makes it hard to make it anything higher than like a C or C+ if you're really a Rockets fan.
I don't think you can give this any type of passing grade because you know, although they may have the talent and they may have the picks, they haven't shown all right, so comparing it to their peers, OKC has shown the talent, they've shown strides in their games, they've been competitive. Utah all the same. With Houston, it's like they don't have the coach.
Yeah.
And their front office is shaky.
Agreed.
You know, and definitely the players, the talent is there for the players.
But that's shout out to the front office.
I agree, but John Wall said it, and you got to take what he said with a grain of salt.
Shout out to the front office for drafting them.
Yeah.
I understand, but you know, Jalen Green, you know,
they were quite obvious picks. That's why
absolutely.
I don't want to give them too much credit.
Şengün was a good pick.
Şengün was a good pick, but
Jalen Green's the only pick where he was
a top 10 prospect.
Jalen Green was the only pick where people were still like should have went Mobley instead of Green. But even I don't
it
even think
was Mobley and Green debate, and
Mobley and with Steven Silas, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think JB Bickerstaff was the perfect world for him. You know, I think with this team like John Wall, he said it. You gotta take it with a grain of salt, but you gotta understand it too. He said they would be out the league if they're on another team, and that's something you got to kind of look at and be like, well, what's going on over there? It's no accountability, it's no leadership, it's no mentors over there, and these are young players, and now you're gonna bring in another young player next year. That's kind of like, all right, that's kind of tricky.
Can we compare this? Because I feel like it's unfair to compare it to OKC because OKC, I think we all can agree, is doing it the best of the best right next to Utah. I feel like if you want to really compare the Rockets rebuild to another team, it's a team that we're going to speak about, and it's the Pistons.
Oh, we can do that.
The Rockets are different, though, because OKC's been in this rebuild forever. Like, the Rockets really only been in rebuild for a couple seasons.
No, I disagree with that.
No.
Right, when they traded
OKC
Harden.
made the playoffs in 2019.
Even still, though, like the OKC was that a championship?
But that was because
like with
CP3
Harden,
was
they were
OKC
going for
has
championships.
OKC has been in the rebuild for 2 seasons only. The Rockets have been in a rebuild for a shorter amount of time.
But it feels like
it feels like it's worse.
I think Detroit's been in like
what
the
was the term
rebuild.
you used for Minnesota this season that the GM said was going to be the Minnesota Vikings this year?
Competitive rebuild.
Competitive rebuild.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what it was when Chris Paul was there.
Okay, that's fair.
It was a competitive rebuild. So I
they
feel
don't
like
want Chris Paul. When he got traded to Chris Paul, it was not this hot commodity.
They made the playoffs.
I know they overachieved, but it was after that. That's when Chris Paul
that move was
But I'm talking about like
competitive rebuild.
tearing it down.
No, fat.
They
But
had Danilo, they had SGA.
I feel like
They had
tearing
Steven
SGA.
Adams. No, SGA, yeah, in the second year, but SGA was very good that year.
Yeah, he was
It
good,
was
sure.
CP3,
But he was
SGA,
but SGA was a
Gallinari,
part of the
Steven
rebuild.
Adams.
Yes.
Again,
He was
I
the
feel
main
like
part
Then
of
a
the
shooter
rebuild.
off the bench. They had the best three
SGA
guard
was
combo.
SGA was got.
Like
two
I
starters.
you
wouldn't
can level
classify
with
that
me-
as rebuilding.
If
That's
you
what
could
I'm saying.
if you could level with me with it being a competitive rebuild, then it's been going on for a little.
That's not the
a
champion.
few
That's not your
years.
championship
been
core
going
that
on
you're
for 3
going
instead
to.
of 2.
Since when Chris Paul was acquired by OKC, that's when it.
Yeah, I
that's
guess
when it
it's
started.
not a big gap. It's a year.
No, that year
Facts.
was definitely because they got SGA to start the rebuild process.
For sure,
so
absolutely.
They just overachieved.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like if they would have traded CP3 and Danilo, then that's like a full on rebuild. Like Houston has been in a full on rebuild. We traded Russ, we traded Harden. They've been in it for less time than OKC.
Just
So
feels
in terms of
so
tearing it all
long,
down.
man.
And the reason why I want to compare it to Detroit is I feel like these are two teams that we look at that in their respective conference are the worst. I think that you have the Hornets too have been playing really bad, but I feel like they have a different purpose where
You can throw
they had,
Charlotte in here too.
No, definitely you could. But I'm just looking at the Pistons where they've been in a rebuild for a while now. And really, what do they have to show for it? Cade Cunningham, for sure, but he's hurt this season, unfortunately. So this is another situation that you have to kind of look at with a grain of salt. But what foundation do they have as compared to the Rockets? At the minimum,
They got young guys for sure.
Dern's
Detroit's
definitely been
rebuild
solid.
also started 2019.
Yeah.
It feels like
But
it's-
They prolonged it because they had Blake.
For sure.
Yeah.
But
fucked
I'm
up
just
with that
looking,
one.
at least with the Rockets, you have Jalen Green, you have Kevin Porter Jr., you have Alperen Şengün. Like, these are 3 players that you can definitely look
Detroit
at.
has a player and a coach.
But Cade
Dwayne
is one of
Casey's
those.
not a coach I'd be high on.
He's not, but he's not.
He's
Steven
not bad.
Silas.
That's a coach of the year. Yeah,
It's like an extremely big.
When's the
gap.
last time he had a winning season?
it's been a while, but when was he on a winning
The
team?
last time he was in Toronto?
Facts.
And he hasn't even really been developing these players properly on Detroit.
See, that's another thing too.
That's true.
So with the Rockets, for me, the reason why I don't really think this team needs more young talent per se.
Okay.
Like, I understand you can't miss some of these top prospects for sure, but they have really good young players. For example, if they draft Victor Wembanyama, I mean, he's generational.
Absolutely.
Where does Şengün fit into that? Where does Jabari fit into that? Jabari's more likely to fit into that.
You get scooped.
And Şengün now kind of gets kicked out, and Victor is generational, so I'm going to reiterate that. But I think Şengün can be a top 10, top 5 center in the league. I think he has that type.
You don't
of
think he
potential.
could play the forward?
Şengün?
Mm-hmm.
Not in
Where's
this,
Jabari?
not in
Okay,
today's NBA.
listen,
Jabari's
but
another
this is-
issue there,
all right,
too.
Joel, I'm with you. I was.
Yeah,
I was.
it's a
until
tough
you-
situation.
No, it's not. It's
Okay,
not.
let's hear it.
I
What do you
was
mean?
with you
What?
until you said, "What about Jabari Smith?" I will be completely honest.
Send him
with
to
you.
the bench.
If Victor's on the board, you don't give a fuck about Jabari
He's
Smith.
100%
No,
You
correct.
don't.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying you care about
Yeah,
that.
the Victor can play
I
the
know
4.
it's obvious you draft.
So
I
you'd
think
rather have
Jabari
Vic-
can play the 4. That's what I do.
No, you put Şengün at the 5. You put
Jabari goes to
Victor-
the bench.
Jabari
Victor
can
at
go-
the 4.
listen,
Victor can play
go
the 4.
Detroit.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're
Victor
right.
can play the 4.
I'm not a big fan of the Şengün Victor combination. I'm not.
Ah,
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, that's
I'm not
tough.
a big fan of it.
I mean, I definitely
Don't fight
can
it.
see the upside of it.
You don't
Like,
think it fits?
the upside is way higher than Jabari Smith and
Yeah, well, we know that
Şengün.
anyone with
Like,
Victor is going to have a higher upside.
Wait, Victor can do almost everything
think
Jabari can do, but better.
In terms of fit, I like Victor and Jabari more
Why?
because Alperen Şengün, you're gonna have to run the offense through him. I think he's most effective when you run an offense through him, and I feel like
Well-
Victor, given the type player he's gonna be, he needs
then
that.
somebody has to go.
That's what
him-
I'm saying.
It's
And
not
if
Victor.
it's Scoot, KPJ is now out. You know what I'm saying? So with the Rockets, wait, I know it's obvious.
Or
I'm
you
not-
moved-
I'm
or
not
no,
saying
or
it's
you
an
moved-
No,
argument.
am I saying because I don't want to mishear you? Are you implying that they can pass on Scoot or Victor because they have?
I don't think
Şengün?
that's
I don't
what
think
he's
that's not what
saying.
I'm
That's
saying
not
at
what
all.
he's
Okay.
I just
What
think
I'm-
they
what
make
I'm
it
saying-
difficult
what I'm saying
with
is
the
that-
fits.
The Rockets have 6 to 7 young
Uh-huh.
players who are actually good.
Okay.
Who can, like, Jalen Green can be a star, one of the best shooting guards in the league. Şengün can be one of the
Tall as
better
Jalen
centers
Green.
in the league. I think KPJ is coming on as a player. I don't think he's a true point guard. So of course they need a true point guard in this system. Kenyon Moran Jr. has making strides. Jabari Smith, I understand the efficiency's not there, but defensively he's going to be one of the better defensive bigs in the league. And like, I really believe he's already good defensive right now. Once he puts on that weight, he'll be better. It's just that I don't know if bringing in another young player to fit in with these 8 young players in rotation already is the brightest idea, or if it's going to really necessarily help them. Like, I think we look at the Rockets right now and they have a core of like 7 to 8 players, but realistically, half of this team is they're going to move on to other teams because there's just too many young players. And I noticed it when I was playing 2K. I was playing 2K one day and I was looking at the age of the Rockets roster, and I'm like,
No,
God,
literally,
I'm
bro.
like, wow.
No one's older than 24
Yes,
except Eric
everybody
Gordon.
is 22, 23 years old. They need minutes. There's something there. And it's just they have a lot of players, and there's very few clear standouts. And for me, I think if that they can let these young players grow and add some veterans to it and a good coach, we'd be talking about this team a lot differently than we are right
What's
now.
the alternative, though? You trade that pick for a vet, a star
or
vet?
get more picks.
No. If you have that pick,
No,
you
have to
take
you have
Victor,
to
you
draft
take
them
Scoot.
regardless.
Simple.
I agree.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
But
that-
there's somebody will get, but that will now impact somebody else. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, but I think when you talk about just talk
Because, for example, like Detroit, I think the key players in their core are Ivy, Cade, and Duren. Those are the locked-in 3.
Yep.
I don't think Sadiq Bey is a locked-in guy there,
No.
right? So, but even Duren, let's say the Pistons luck into the top pick. Victor, of course, is going to be in that spot. Duren's now the backup. If they get Scoot, that's a better fit, but then it's a better fit, of course. With the Rockets, I feel like KPJ is very young. He's already a 18 to 20 point per game scorer. Jalen Green's a 24 point per game scorer. Şengün is good. Jabari is good. You have 4 players that I think could be locked in long term. They just have not found their stride yet because there's just no guidance in Houston.